call the member for Braddon.
I thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I apologise for jumping in front of the member for Wannon. I understood he wasn't going to be here. So, in the UK Parliament, I would have probably yielded, but thank you for this opportunity. Today it is an honour to be, on behalf of the people of Braddon, speaking in support of the motion the Prime Minister tabled in this House, a motion of remembrance and commemoration of the centenary of ANZAC. And we do today, I'm sure, as a parliament, acknowledge that the 25th of April 2015 marked 100 long years since Australian and New Zealand troops landed at Gallipoli. And we do pay our respect, Mr Deputy Speaker, to the 60,000 Aussies who fought in the Gallipoli campaign, the nearly 9,000 who died, the 20,000 who were wounded, and the thousands more who carried the unseen scars for the rest of their lives. We do remember the brave soldiers of Great Britain, France and India and Newfoundland who fought alongside the ANZACs 100 years ago. We do note that the 25th of April is a solemn remembrance, the solemn services of remembrance were conducted at ANZAC Cove and at Lone Pine in Turkey and attended by some 8,000 Australians, including the widows of Australian veterans. And we extend our thanks today to the people and the government of Turkey for their support of the centenary commemorations and their ongoing faithful care of the battlefields of Gallipoli. And we do note today, Mr Deputy Speaker, that on ANZAC Day millions and millions of our fellow Australians in each one of our electorates gathered to remember the ANZACs and all those who have worn our uniform and served in the name of Australia, and the people of every electorate were represented or are represented in this parliament, have honoured this milestone of the centenary of the landings of Gallipoli. I have previously in this parliament echoed the words of the Prime Minister. I recalled the valour, the heroism, the horror, the pain and the sacrifice of all those who have served this nation in peacetime and in war, and I have focused particularly on the conflict at Gallipoli. Mr Deputy Speaker, in February 1916, an 18-year-old young Methodist farmhand from Longford enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force. His name was William Henry Mason. Now, whilst Longford is in the electorate of Lyons of my colleague Mr Hutchison, William Henry Mason was in fact my grandfather. And isn't it wonderful how over many years now all of us, all Australians, have had access to the phenomenal support services of the Australian War Memorial, where now, with technology available to us, each and every one of us have the capability of discovering little bit by little bit the minutiae details of our relatives and friends and neighbours and leaders, where they served, on what days, when they went into hospital, why they went into hospital, were they seriously ill. And my own grandfather, as I read the records that I have here in front of me, certainly had his ups and downs as a member of the Australian Imperial Force, in and out of hospital, convalescing in England and then into France, and it just went on and on. Thankfully, my grandfather, I suppose, not obviously, but quite obviously, did survive. But I'm sure that each of my colleagues in this parliament, across the parliament, can tell stories of their own relatives and friends and neighbours. And I think that's what makes this opportunity to speak so very special for us all, that we are all linked not that far back to the story of ANZAC. 100 years may seem a long time, but really it's only 3 generations for many of us. And I think it's quite an exceptional opportunity that we have to not only speak about our own family lineage and its connection to either World War I or in fact any other war, but we can speak in an honourable position on behalf of our electorate. Today, following the centenary of ANZAC that we, I suppose, all celebrated just a few months ago, I do just want to direct my few remaining moments to the many ex-servicemen and women throughout the northwest of Tasmania, the west coast and King Island, that worked tirelessly for a year or more to ensure that the many thousands of people who turned out on ANZAC Day 2015 to commemorate the centenary, that we could do that in a respectful manner and worthy of the remembrance that our forefathers deserved. Like all other members of this parliament and all other community leaders, I attended multiple services. I suspect that all of us as local members wish we had cardboard cutouts of ourselves or genetically modified replicas so that we could have been in every spot in every electorate. That might not be the case for some of the inner suburbs, but for us in rural and remote areas where we have 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 ANZAC Day services, it is physically impossible to be at them all. But I did attend a multiple number, commencing of course with the dawn service and moving through the day right through into the afternoon. And what a tremendous opportunity to fellowship with all the people of Braddon as we together on just this 1 hour or so of one day of a given year to literally be on the same page, across party lines, across political lines, across religious or cultural lines, that together we could remember those that have served. I did especially enjoy my time in the Devonport service, the Somerset Civic Service, the Burnie service and the North Motton service, and each of the services were unique, but yet similarly moving. The older generation remembered their own service in some of the wars that we are aware of. They remembered the sacrifice of their mates, many of them physically now struggling to even attend the services, but they are both stubborn and courageous and want to be there no matter what the sacrifice or the pain. Middle-aged men and women thought of their parents, and young children, school children, Mr Deputy Speaker, proudly took part in the services through speech and song and poem and reading, and they rose to the occasion. It's been an honour, Mr Deputy Speaker, since my election to work with many of the local RSLs in particular and some other community groups to utilise the ANZAC Centenary grants to upgrade existing memorials, to in some cases erect the first and only memorial in an area, to assist school children in their remembrance of this great anniversary, and to see taxpayers' money well and truly spent in honour of those that have gone before us. Some of the best taxpayer money that I suspect has ever been spent. One of the special aspects of the new memorials, Mr Deputy Speaker, is that while they may not be on a grand scale, you would expect to see in maybe a capital city or major regional town, they are no less meaningful, and they came about using local creativity and input. And as I finish, I just want to give an example. In the little small community of Tulla on the west coast, the mining areas of Tasmania, they placed a very small but memorable memorial using large boulders around a flagpole with plaques commemorating local servicemen and women. Or like the Guns Plains community, which repaired honour boards, but also built a chair, a seat, which can be used by anyone in a beautiful setting to take a moment to reflect on the sacrifice of others. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, I thank the House for the opportunity just to pause in the robustness of this place and to remember the service, the courageous service of those that have gone before us.